Welcome to the Sovereign Women podcast, your sanctuary house for generational healing. Our mission is clear: to help women reclaim their sovereignty by holistically healing themselves and their lineage, combining both a spiritual and scientific approach in order to disrupt ancestral karmic patterns of emotional change. Today, we're joined by a remarkable guest whose work and insights promise to educate, to inspire, and guide all of us. It is an honor to present to you today's guest, Joyce Ayers. She is a beautiful woman who blends life experience with diverse methods such as meditation, hypnotherapy, and yoga to help clients rewire their nervous system, bring about calm and clarity, overcoming generation patterns throughout embodiment practices, and also NLP. Having faced disease of the soul from conforming to expectations, she now guides others to grow from lies and certainties and follow their intuition. Joyce, how are you today?
I'm great. Yeah, so glad to be here, Veronica. Thank you so much.
It was such an honor to have you. When I read your bio, I got so excited. I got goosebumps because everything that you were sharing with me in the bio and as well as your work is just lines up so beautifully with the themes and subject matters that we discuss not only here in the podcast, but also that is so much needed in the world right now. So can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do?
Sure. Yeah, like there's so much that aligns with what you're doing. And that's why I'm like, oh, I definitely want to be on your podcast and the guests that are going to be here and how you're nurturing them and what they're looking for. So yeah, it's like, oh, I have something to say that I would love to part and tell me the question again. Sorry, or
Uh,
what you're seeking.
Just know a little bit about your work. I mean, it looks like we're talking about NLP, hypnotherapy, yoga, and meditation. What exactly led you to the work that you're doing right now?
Well, it's like I really felt that I was intuitively led to these modalities because there's been other modalities that have crossed my path, and it's like, nah, and but then there's these ones, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I want to know more about these. I want to get trained in them, and then I came to discover that they're all based in the unconscious, in the body, and how that's where all of this ancestral wounds and healing can be was formed, but also where it can be healed. So yeah, I just had long ago. When I took my first psychology class, I learned all the clinical stuff in that first couple years. But there was like this fascination with how our mind works and how we just the patterns that we have and the habits that we have and other things. And I just really became very fascinated with how is this like, what does this mean for me and other people, and how do we interact? Like, why are we interacting this way? And I really started like questioning and wondering way more beyond the clinical parts and the, you know, all the people that you learn about in the first year of psychology. And then as my world began to expand more and more, and like, well, what's this past life stuff, and what is this, what epigenetics, and just learning more and more and becoming more interested in what does that mean for us as far as our choices in our lives and what we're passionate about and how we express ourselves or not express ourselves, or how we follow all the rules and whose rules are they. And so yeah, I just really started diving into those inquiries, and I discovered through embodiment and through the NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming. And for those that don't know what this is, it's the language that we use that expresses what's really going on inside of us that we're not conscious of. That can, help us. Like, it's like the pathway in and rewiring, like we were talking about, rewiring that neurology that may have been passed down to us. People know it as ancestral. Other people know it as epigenetics, and there's other terms that are out there. And then how it's not, each one doesn't stand alone. Even like it does stand alone. It's a modality, and they all have so much in common as well.
Mm, yes, I love that. So let's go back to you growing up, were you interested in holistic healing and modalities, or were you exposed to like a lot of spiritual tradition, religious, or it was just something that later as an adult or through the psychology class you took that you started to get into it?
Yeah, I didn't, there wasn't anything prior to that psychology class. I was average person, just functioning in my head, going about life, go to work, go to the gym, go to school, just doing all the things, just showing up, interacting with, the boyfriend or friends without giving thought to who I was in those interactions, or, why did my boyfriend leave me? It's like, I had no idea. And so, yeah, when I was in school, I was studying for business. That's all that heady stuff in the mind, and then I found psychology, and I'm like, what's that? Ooh, this is really cool, and just started diving into that. And then, of course, with business, or with most fields, there's the psychology part of all of it. So that's where my path started going, and then discovering all these other types of modalities and all these other teachers, than who we learned about, who we learn about in the psychology classes. And it's like, I don't really want to be, I really, I'm just get rid of this one because it keeps falling out. I really don't want to learn about this clinical part of psychology. I just want to like really dive into us as human beings, like the reptilian brain and all those things. Like, what's that about? Which is what your work is about too. It's like, that the programming, the wiring that's been there for, ancient times.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I always like to ask this question because I find the commonality in my guests that none of them grew up with this. It was something that they were intuitively led to do. It was something that happened through maybe their own healing journey. So I feel like that opens up our hearts and minds to knowing that we can be more open minded and learn these holistic natural ways without feeling like it's something that we were born to do or we were raised around these teachings. Now, I would love to go back to, because we talk a lot about epigenetics, especially on the podcast, and neurology. So, can you help us, our audience, understand a little bit about epigenetics and how these patterns get passed down through that perspective?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like how I understand it, I don't have all the scientific parts of it. And I like to kind of have like a broad perspective of it rather than the detail. Some people are very detail oriented, and this is something you learn in NLP. I'm more big picture. And so how I look at epigenetics is something happened many generations ago, and there was some scarcity, there was some fears, there was something that happened during that time. It could be war, it could be famine, the potato famine, wars in different countries or different, whatever it was. And we experienced that, like at that time, however many generations ago. You talk about 7 generations before, 7 generations later. Well, let's just go back 7 generations, and what life would have been like for people, and how we dealt with it, how that person dealt with it, because we can all have the same experience, but deal with it differently, and have a different perspective of it. So however that showed up for our ancestors 7 generations ago, there's the emotions that happen, like all of our senses, how we see it, how we saw it, how we heard it, how we felt it, is all programmed into our neurology, and it gets encoded, embedded in there. And and then we carry it through that lifetime. And then we have children, and that programming, that coding is now like, I don't know, it's not DNA, but just call it DNA for simplicity. It's like this DNA is passed down, this coding is passed down. Now, even though that child didn't experience that situation, since they have that coding, they'll respond to a situation in a way that doesn't make sense. Here's it's just so bizarre. So here I am, I'm doing an embodiment training in England, right? Countryside of England. beautiful place in this, location. We're sitting at picnic tables under the trees, and we're talking away, and I hear a plane going overhead. It's loud, but it's not too close. So I acknowledge it as a plane that's coming overhead. And then within seconds, I felt my body tense, intense fear coming into me. And it's like, the shifting eyes, like, I got to find safety. And I'm thinking under the table, right? And there's absolutely no reason for my body to respond that way. And once, like, sort of that moment passed, I just burst into tears because it's like, I don't know what's happening to my body. I don't know what just happened. It was just a plane. I'm used to hearing planes all the time. So, because I grew up in the city, you just, near airports, you hear planes all the time. But being in the countryside, it was France. So being in the countryside in France triggered something in me when this plane went overhead. So it was like, I don't know, like a bomb, or it was just like, I was like grasping, like, what happened? So that's the epigenetics. There was absolutely no reason for my body to respond in that way, because I first acknowledged the plane. And then within seconds, I was in this reactive state that I've had no reason, like, I've never experienced anything to do with planes before, any dangers with planes before. There was it made no sense at all. So that's like epigenetics. I guess that's the best way I can describe what happened. And so that coding from past generations, like maybe 2, 3 generations, or, well, maybe not that many because it was a plane, but it could have been, even though it wasn't a plane, it could have been still that noise that something else would have made however many generations ago. So that get coded in us, and it gets passed down, it gets passed down, passed down. And so until in my lifetime I experienced that, until I investigate what that is, I've now passed that on to my children, and they will pass it on to their children 7 generations forward.
I love that. That's such a great example that you gave because it shows real life. And the key word, and this is what I would love for you to elaborate on, is you said investigate. Because this is the thing about human beings. I believe that many of us lack the awareness, or we just believe that this is the way we are, that we're just
Yeah.
anxious, we're depressed, we have all of these fears, and we kind of just accept it. So, what does investigation mean? Is that the path that you take with the NLP and the hypnotherapy, or is investigation simply literally asking, why do I feel this way, or what am I needing?
Yeah, all of it. It's like you said, we go around and, hey, this is just who I am. I get mad when this happens, or I respond this way when that happens. And we know it's a pattern of ours, and we just accept it as that's the way I am. We don't inquire, is this something that, like, what if I wasn't like this? What if I didn't get mad when someone says this kind of a comment? If you're at work and someone says, well, why didn't you get this done on time? It's like, well, I have 2 ways of responding. I could get into fears like, oh my God, I messed up. And, and it's like, they're going to fire me. And, that's the way I respond because I'm coded a certain way. Or I could look at that and say, I could look at that situation as like, okay, so why didn't I get that done in time? Well, this, and this. And so now we have a different perspective, and now we can change. Like, we still may have responded, oh, I might get fired, but now we can, like, oh, of course I'm not going to get fired. This was going on, and that's why I didn't meet the deadline for this thing, or whatever it is. I don't know if that helps you.
Yeah, yeah, tremendously. That's a very clear description of what investigation is. I think people make it more complicated than it is, but really is about us learning to ask bigger questions and to not be afraid of these emotions that show up. And typically we numb them, we run away from them, we pretend that they're not there. And I think that that's a big part of the healing journey is being willing, allowing yourself to even heal, allowing yourself to perhaps invite and welcome a brand new perspective and reality. Now, what does the nervous system have to do with this? because I know you mentioned the nervous system. I, being able to handle and process emotions, I think we can understand what the nervous system does for that. But how is that correlated to patterns, epigenetics, and then maybe also how does NLP help with the nervous system rewiring?
Yeah, our nervous system, there's that reptilian brain that wants to keep us safe, out of danger. And whenever we are experiencing an emotion, like our emotions are more like, again, it's just simplicity without getting scientific. It's just chemical reactions that happen in the body that, generate certain, I don't know, the endorphins or, the dopamines, and, so we can label them that way. So our emotion creates a response, a chemical response in the body that sends a signal to the brain. And so if we feel that we're in some kind of danger, stress, then our neurology is going to send all the energy to our body to take action, to react, respond in ways that, get away from this or attack, right? That's a fight, flight, or freeze. So that's the reptilian brain that is engaged instantly. And that's obviously that's been around for a very long time. And so, and that's to do with also like there's the real dangers, things that come up that we do need to take action to keep ourselves safe. Something's falling off a house and we're underneath it. We're definitely, we hear a sound, right? And it was like, a little story. I was in my vegetable garden years ago and I heard this buzzing sound, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking around. I'm thinking, oh, like I don't see any bees. I don't see any vehicles around, and I keep hearing this buzzing, and I just happened to look up, and there's a swarm of bees above my head. And, I'm just like, oh my God, they're going to come and land on me, right? Total fear. So, even though they're way up high, it was quite loud, this buzzing sound, because there was, I don't know, thousands and thousands of them. So like I crouched down as small as I could get to get away and then ran. So that's the reptilian brain responding to a danger, a potential danger, but now I know, like, okay, bees aren't going to come down and land on me and completely cover me and start biting me or stinging me. But that's the way we respond. We respond to situations automatically. So as that coding is in our body, maybe it could be some lack of in past generations or scarcities. Maybe there's, violence of some kind, some trauma, some little t traumas, big T traumas. They're all encoded in us or passed down to us. So when we look at that and the neurology, our body is in that fight or flight state. And so some things that happen as well in our body is we start to breathe in our chest, because that's like we go upward with all the energy, like like lungs expanding, right? Got to expand our lungs to like take off. Our vision starts to narrow because we like, where do I need to go to get to safety? So these are like physical responses in the body. And so unless there's like a danger, like a real danger that we need to react to or respond to, then it's like, okay, we look around, it's like, oh, that's an old thought. Maybe it's one from our parents. It's not really ours, but it's still programmed into us, or maybe it's something we actually experienced. And so if there isn't really an actual danger, it's more of a memory, and we feel our body responding to it, we can change. There's many ways with neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, and embodiment that can change it. The quickest way is I'm also a yoga instructor, doing breath work, and that to breathe, like, because a lot of times we hold our breath in those situations, like, and so we take a deep breath and we could still be breathing in our chest, but if you relax the belly, because that's where the parasympathetic nervous system is, you breathe down into the belly, relax those muscles, and it signals, again, it's all like this chemical thing going on. You signal to relax, to like just to You still may, like, your heart still may be going and whatnot, but you just go down into your belly, relax the belly, sit up nice and tall, and relax your face. Keep breathing long breaths into the belly, and then you change your state within a few breaths when you're intentional about it. Because, like, if you're still, um, it's called associated. If you're still associated into the experience, whether it's real, imagined, or potential, that's going to happen. If you're associated into it, then it's much harder to be able to just get into the disassociated state, which is like we put ourselves, make a distance between what we're thinking or imagining or what's really happening. We distance ourselves from it, and then we can get into a new state of rewire that neurology. And the more that we practice it, when a situation is not happening, like, say it's like our brain doesn't know something isn't really happening. It only knows what you're showing it or telling it, because then the body reacts to that. So if you think about, walking along the beach at sunrise, listening to the soft lapping of the waves to the shore, the seagulls flying overhead, and you go there, you can feel the sand in your toes, you can feel the slight breeze on your skin. Your neurology is going to shift. But if you imagine yourself near a forest that's ablaze on fire, and you're on foot, and you see all the animals coming out of the forest, running out of the forest, and you're like, like you're close to it. So you're going to be in just imagining it. You're like, already, you could feel that sort of tensioning a little bit from that nice, beautiful, calm place you were at the beach to that, gotta run, gotta get away. So just imagining situations can change our neurology. And that's why it's so important. Like when people, are having anxiety, depression, or just the spiraling thoughts that I'm not good enough, I can't do this, someone is always criticizing me or finding fault with me, or hey, like I rock this, I'm so good at this, like those thoughts change the feelings that we're having, those chemical reactions in our body. So it's so powerful, especially with manifestation, because we're always manifesting the reality that we feel or that we visualize or hear is there. We're always manifesting. So it's like, why can't I manifest what I want? It's like, because that epigenetics thing is going on. The programming from a long time ago, or whatever happened, the event that happened has been programmed and is still happening. So we are manufacturing what we expect that we can have or not have.
Love it. Oh my God, so beautiful. Now, along that line, because that was exactly the perfect description of the nervous system and understanding how these things get wired. There was something else that you mentioned in the work that you do. You call it quantum time line therapy. Can you tell us what that is all about? I've actually never heard of it. Can you believe it?
Yeah, short form is QTT, or just TTL, timeline therapy. Quantum time techniques, they're variations of the same thing. And imagine like your life and your ancestors and your future on a line, like on a graph line. And you're right in the middle, like you're a dot right in the middle of this line, right? Wherever the line is. And you have one end of the line is your past and one end of the line is your future. And so that line going into the past doesn't necessarily stop at your birth. It can go all the way to conception. It can go all the way to one generation, two generations. We'll say go all the way back to 7 generations. So when, again, it's encoded in us. And just like that airplane that went overhead, I had no reason why I should have reacted that way. If I took time to investigate, where does that, when did that take place? Of course, I'm not going to know when it took place because it wasn't in my lifetime. My parents never spoke about it to me, about them, either of them ever experiencing being in a war, like in a war zone or or whatever, or cannons going off. I don't know, like just whatever might have created that reaction in me. So the timeline therapy, QTT, we go back. It's a technique that I learned as part of neuro-linguistic programming. So you go back to the time when something first occurred. Now, if we just, for simplicity's sakes, it's like, say as a 5-year-old, you went to school, and being women, like we had on an outfit that we really liked. It's like, oh, I feel so good. Whether your play clothes, you're dressed up, you go to school, you go to some event, you feel really good, right? And you're all confident and feeling happy. And somebody, okay, maybe they just look at you a certain way that like is displeasing, or like look down at you, or like, oh my gosh, like how could you possibly, like whatever that look, that could all it could take, right, to traumatize someone. It could be someone said something that you overheard, or it was said directly to you about your clothing. It's like, where did you get that from? Like, or like, did you pick that up? Like anything that could offend someone, or not even offend, but it goes, it's like, I love this outfit, I feel so good on it. And then somebody comes along and says, it's a horrible outfit. Or they, however it occurs to you. And it happens maybe when you're 5 years old. Usually, like a lot of these are happens before you're 7, because we're so, we're like sponges, like whatever, or like, computers, whatever information goes in gets put into the hard drive. And it's not questions, it's fact, right? So this is what I made it mean about me. This is what I made it mean about other people. This is what I made it mean about the world. And it gets encoded there. And so with the timeline therapy, say you didn't know that, like you didn't have that memory right away of the feeling that you're having right now as an adult, but it's like, yeah, I really am self-conscious about what I wear. Like, I'm always afraid of people judging me, and like, there's no reason for it, right? We're adults. It's like, hey, I wear what I want to wear. It's like, well, let's just think it. When do you think you first felt that feeling of you had to be like conscious of what you're wearing? Well, I don't know, like, long time ago. Well, if you were to know, well, and then we start looking for the memory, right? We start trying to, like, when did that happen? Because that's the conscious mind. It wants to know, well, when did that happen? Well, there was this time I wore this thing, and this girl made a comment, but I was in my 20s. It's like, well, keep going back. And it's like, well, it kind of feels like it might have happened when I was about 4 or 5. So they're not remembering that time that something happened, but they feel it. They can feel something in their body that resonates when that experience was coded into them. And so that's where, like, the past generations can come in, because it's like, it really feels like it was 3 generations ago. I have no idea why. And, there's a process that I take people through, a similar process, but this, for simplicity's sake, so they're like, yeah, I think I was about 4 or 5. And then we do work around what happened. Like, again, it's not a specific event that somebody has to remember. It's just that feeling, because that's what it was encoded. Yeah, we can have a visual about it, but it's mainly that feeling, and then going through a process to recode it in a different way. And then especially the most important part is to have the person acknowledge for themselves what they were feeling. Yeah, I felt really sad. I really felt ashamed. And really honoring those feelings, because those are the feelings you taught for, like, uh, stuffing, and some other terms, like we pushed them aside. And so we learn how to cope from that young age, well, I better make sure I wear something that people are going to approve of from now on, right? Because I don't want to feel that way ever again. I want to maybe check with someone. Is this okay? Does this look okay? Do I look okay? Oh, I'm going to watch what everyone else wears, because if I wear what everyone else is wearing, then I won't stand out. No one will say anything about what I wear. So that's how we function through life. Later on, if we don't heal that small part of us, that little person, that was never comforted or told that, yeah, it's okay to wear what you want. If you feel like, no one honored that feeling. We only know that bad feeling that we had. So that's the timeline therapy. We just go along the timeline and then find that place where an event was encoded into us.
Wow. So do you find that with a lot of the people we work with that go through this type of therapy, do they always like nail it? Like they get to the root cause? Or are there some times that they can't really pinpoint the exact situation that made them feel the way they're feeling now?
Yeah. So yeah, it I don't know. I don't have percentages. Some people can like, oh, okay, this event happened, and yeah, I was 2 years old, but yeah, I really feel like, I can actually remember the scenario playing out. It's like they have an image in their head. They could be a visual person, that's why they have like an image of it.
Mm.
Other people might just have like, I heard I heard those words, and now they're an auditory person. So that's like they remember hearing that. And then other people are kinesthetic, so they feel it. So you're tapping into one of those three ways that we um, interact with the world. We're either visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. And so using those ways of reaching to that place. And timeline therapy is so cool because you don't have to know what the event was. You don't have to remember everything. It's just, I have a sense that something maybe happened when I was being born or while I was in the womb. I just have this sense that, this feeling that I was in the womb when this something took place, like the stress of my mother, the stress of my father. Something happened in their lives that was neurologically wired into me. It wasn't my experience because I wasn't even born, but it's like it gets passed down. And so we have a sense of some sort when it happened.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you say that and you clarified that fact that we don't always have to know exactly what it is that happened. And if we can connect with those emotions and feelings, then that's a great. But I think, like you said, it's the body keeps score anyway, so we have to deal with it at that point too. Which leads me to the next question.
Okay, so you read Bessel van der Kolk's Body
Yeah.
Keeps the Score. It does. He keeps the score of everything we heard, that we seen, that we felt. And if you want to like, go into the science, go into his science. Even Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Yeah.
everything he does is science based. So if you want to have, you need the science, you love the science, go to either one of those people. And Dr. Joe Dispenza works with meditations a lot.
Yes, I'm definitely a fan of Dr. Dispenza. I think he 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 calls the chakras energy centers, and I think he does that because I don't know, but I think he does it because he doesn't want. I think that word triggers people, and they start to think like new age and all this. I call
Yeah,
them what they
I think
call.
he numbers them.
Yeah,
Yeah, he may call them energy centers. I'm just thinking of all the meditations I've done recently. Just like one, and then two, so, and for those who are new to the chakras, you start at like your tailbone, basically. And then you work up to the crown of your head. I don't know if he has seven or more. I'm not sure about that one.
yeah, because in the Kundalini yoga tradition, there's eight of them actually, and everywhere else we see seven. But I think that he should call them what they are called. They're called chakras. But I think that his audience kind of resonates more with that, which I mean, I feel like it's so important to stick to the origins and the sacredness of whatever we're taught. But from what I understand, he also downloaded this specific healing modality himself. So it's something he created or was created through him, which is fair for him to call it whatever he wants. Now,
Yeah.
with hypnotherapy, is it more of rewiring and reprogramming the mind to a new belief set, or is it also like we can go because there's past life regression? So is there a hypnotherapy part of past life regression or not necessarily?
I haven't studied path life progression, and there is definitely an overlap there. The hypnotherapy, it's like part of us wants something in life, wants to feel a certain way, wants to believe a certain thing about ourselves. So when that is present, whether we're conscious to it or not, then the hypnotherapy can work, because it's like, hypnotherapy is like, oh, you're going to make me do this, or I'm going to, like, you're going to tell me I need to do this or that. And it's like, unless we want it for ourselves, and we believe we can, there's a part of us that believes we can have it, then that's like, we won't, we'll dismiss it. Like we'll delete it out. So when someone's in hypnosis, all it is you're into a deep sleeping trance. You're not sleeping because you can hear everything. You're fully aware of yourself. You're fully aware of the other person talking to you. You might slip in and out of sort of a sleepy dream state, but you're always aware of what's going on. And so how hypnosis works, and you learn this in NLP and other places. We have, imagine an iceberg. I'm just trying to think of how to visually show this. Think of an iceberg, and you have the top part of the iceberg that sticks out of the water. That's the conscious mind. And then, of course, the bigger part, the biggest part of the iceberg is underneath the water that you can't see, and that's the unconscious mind. So we mainly focus and operate in the world through the conscious mind, the part of the iceberg that sticks out. And that is really like a very, very, very small percentage of our overall ability. And so with hypnosis, it's like, take some deep breaths. Imagine this. So it's like, let's keep the mind busy, the iceberg. Let's give a job to the iceberg, the conscious mind, and then it can like be busy thinking about that, or making sense of something. And then the other part of the hypnosis is talking to the unconscious mind, the part that is trying to protect us, keep us safe, the coding part. It's like, well, we need to do this, we need to do that. I believe this, I believe that. So you keep the conscious mind, which is like the gatekeeper, you keep that part busy, so that when you talk to the unconscious mind, it's suggestible. And this is why marketing is so good, because they give your conscious mind something busy, and then they slip in into the unconscious mind all of these, they're called suggestions. So Veronica, that I love your gong. It's I'm just trying to think of an example. It's like, have you ever thought about loaning your gong to blah blah blah? So now I've just it's like I've gotten your mind busy. Like, the conscious mind is like, oh, she likes my gong, and yeah, I love my gong. Like, oh yeah, I really like, and now you're busy. Like the conscious mind is really busy about the gong. And then I come in, and it's like I just made a subtle suggestion of like, oh, you might like to loan that to someone. Someone would really love to play your gong in their studio, or so. So now there's this suggestion. So when you're talking to someone later on who just happens to be coveting your gong, you'd be like, oh, why don't you just borrow it? And you're like, I never loan my gong out. So unless you, like, if you really never wanted to loan your gong, like that's just, you never loan your gong out, that suggestion would not hold. Like you would dismiss it, you would delete it, because that's what we do, because that's not in agreement with a value you have. And if you do loan out your gong to people, then of course you would loan it out. So that's how hypnosis works. And so when we're trying to heal, or not even trying, when we're looking to heal those generational wounds, programming or whatnot, we go in and we more or less somewhat acknowledge what the belief is there, and then we add in suggestions to recode that belief. People, the simplest thing is, people want to lose weight. It's like, I can never lose weight. And a part of you definitely wants to lose the weight. So that's into being in integrity and in alignment. So it's like, yeah, like, that chocolate bar is so good. And, but it would, your body loves when it eats a delicious, colorful, chewy, crunchy salad. And of course, the person's like, well, yeah, like, that sounds really good. A chocolate bar is just sort of instant gratification, but that juicy, like delicious, tasty salad with all the beautiful colors, so you talk in imageries and sounds and feelings, like, because that's how it was encoded into us. So so that's why hypnosis is so powerful. Even tapping, people know about tapping. I'm not trained in tapping. I do know how to tap. I tap for myself, and it's like the tapping points. These are meridian points. um, but so, yeah, hypnosis is super super powerful. Someone recently working with someone who wants to be in a relationship, and it's like, well, like has had difficulty finding someone, and what's going on and how do you want to feel. So again, it's like, okay, let's take this information that of what they want and what they struggle with, and then put it into a hypnosis, and then take them through that process. So now they feel they're worthy of love. They feel that they can be authentic, they can be themselves, that they can share their passions and joys with this person, and be honored, like all those things. So now we're reprogramming the beliefs that someone has about themselves, because it might have been passed down. Like maybe your mother or father um, was really bitter after your parents divorced or something, and then one of your parents or both are really really bitter, and they can't even be in the same room, and it's like, like now and it happened when you were like 3 years old or something, before the age of 7 or 8. So now you have this impression about relationships that have followed you. So you use hypnosis to get into the neurology, that coding, to reframe that you can and deserve and will have a loving relationship, a connected, loving relationship. And now that suggested belief is installed.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's definitely not something that we use for past life regression, or it's not past life regression itself. It's really about the recoding and the rewiring of the new messages that we want to believe and to actually embody. Which takes us to the next question. We've talked a lot
Yeah,
about.
and then all of this can be, like, I was using like current life situations. They can all go into past generations, ancestral generations. Because again, it's like, how far back does this go?
Right.
Um, and like, when did it begin? I remember I've done different things that I was working on, went back 3 generations, and I'm like, I wonder what happened, right? Because I wonder what happened that I feel this way now. Like, what happened 3 generations ago? And again, on that timeline therapy, and then healing it for my ancestor. So therefore I can have the healing.
Beautiful. Exactly. And I totally resonates. That's exactly in my case, that's exactly what happened. I didn't know that I was going to be opening up these the Akashic records, really, that's what it was, but also just
Mm.
the legacy and imprints of the ancestors. There were times when I was in my meditation practice when I was actually connecting to ancestors that I didn't even meet in person. And I would get these visions and messages, and then I would go ask my grandmother, and she would confirm that this was the truth. And that's why I think it's so fascinating that we can go back generationally and we can connect ancestrally, but by the same token, we also can move forward and use these techniques like hypnotherapy. I love the quantum line therapy that you described because we can just learn to move forward. We don't have to go back and literally dissect everything that happened. I think people can get really overwhelmed with thinking, how am I going to come up, heal all these things that my lineage has gone through, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, is there science to prove that? It's
Yeah.
like, well, like if you, I guess, attach a bunch of probes to your head and senses and monitor your emotional state and your chemical things that are going on before and after, before you did the timeline therapy, the ancestral, the past life regressions, and then like you measured and then did that healing, and then you measured again, like imagining having that thought that you were having, and then you put the probes back on you and you measure it. Like, yeah, you could probably see the difference. How did that happen? Science can't explain that. Like, there's no scientific, I don't know, things that we can hook up to ourselves
Not yet.
to prove that. To prove that, it's just it just happens, right? It's like, well, how does it happen? It's like having faith, have trust that our intuition is so powerful. Our brains, we're only tapping into a very small percentage of what our brains can do. Think about prayer. Like if because this would really help me to understand how quantum physics works. Because I'm like, I don't understand this thing. It's like, okay, well, imagine you are saying a prayer for someone across the world, right, in a different time zone, and they don't even know that you're praying for them. And it's like your daytime and their nighttime, they're sleeping. And they're really going through, maybe you know that they're going through something, maybe you don't. And let's pretend that we don't even know that they're going through something. So all of a sudden this person comes to mind. It could be a family member, a friend, or someone that you know, and you just feel called to pray for them. And so you say the prayer, and the like maybe a day or two later, out of the blue, they call you, right? And it's like, I was really struggling with this. And then you came to mind, like I actually dreamt about you. And, I woke up feeling whatever. Okay, how do you explain that? And
Exactly.
there's all kinds of stories that, are out there, that, that, verify, the healing, like, someone has cancer, and a congregation, a group of people pray for this person, pray for them and pray for them for weeks or months or whatever. And one day they go back to the doctor and they said, we can't find that cancer. Like, what have you done? And again, there's stories about that through prayer. So, whether it's prayer or other healing things, other modalities of healing, it happens.
Absolutely. And ultimately, science is the demystification of the spiritual. So, I believe that in a very short period of time as a human civilization, both will have merged. I think that we're getting really, really close. And I think that also spirituality will be really honored for the truth and what it is. So we're getting there. We're just a little bit of a pioneers trying to bring the crowd along. One of the
Yeah.
things that I wanted to ask you was about embodiment. So that's one of the things that you've mentioned as well in your work. We talked a lot about self-awareness. I think some people get stuck in intellect and knowing why they are the way they are. But then we have another problem. Like we said earlier, the body does keep score of these traumatic experience. So what does embodiment mean to you, or what aspect of your work includes embodiment, and what does it look like?
Yeah, I love discovering embodiment. I did a workshop and I was like, what is this embodiment thing? And afterwards it was like, oh my gosh, it's it's a game changer. It's like, I don't know how I'm really showing up. I like to know what I don't know. And so that, just sort of begin there. And so it's like, well, let's play around with a scenario. Like, let's pretend that, okay, so say you're going to be a speaker on a podcast, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And I really blew, like, about it, like 4 months ago when I did a podcast, I really blew it because I was so nervous. And now I feel a lot better. And all because I did my embodiment poses that helped me shift my state. So it's like, okay, what's going on? So let's, I guess, again, inquire into the body by imagining a scenario, a situation. It's like, I'm going to be a speaker on a podcast. What is your body doing? What are you doing in your body? Oh, I instantly feel like I'm tensing up. Where are you tensing up? In my belly. Where else are you tensing up? In my jaw. Okay, so that's the physiology. Just thinking about being a speaker on a podcast, right? It's not even happening. It's just like the thought just puts the fear into you. It's like, okay, well, what if you were to relax your jaw? Because they already feel like their jaw is clenched, right? So what if you were to relax your jaw, like, whatever, open it up and relax. And okay, what does that feel like? Oh, okay, I feel like my face is softer. All right, so what about your belly? It still feels really tight. Okay, well, and I'm not asking them to think about anything else, like visualize themselves differently. It's just I'm asking them to, like, now notice your belly. Yeah, it feels really tight. Okay, what are you doing? I think I'm clenching it. Well, you don't really know. No, I don't know. It just kind of feels tight. Okay, now clench it even more. So now you're exaggerating. So you like clench up your tummy more. Okay, I really know I'm clenching it. Now let out a breath and relax the belly. Oh, okay, now tighten it again. Okay. Now relax it. Okay, now think about being a speaker on a podcast. And like, so the person like is like, okay, I'm feeling. It doesn't feel tight anymore. So, that little shift is like, okay, so whenever you think about being on a podcast and you like check in with your body, what is it doing? What are you noticing? I'm getting small or something. It's like, just relax your jaw. Now relax your belly. And so that now there's a practice the person can do. So that's like a short version of embodiment. And it's all about discovering and becoming aware of what our bodies are doing in any given moment. Something that we feel confident about. Um, we've had experience doing, I don't know, leading a Kundalini class, right? You've done it so many times, it just comes so natural. You feel so at ease, and you're like, okay, how does your body feel? It's like, oh, my shoulders feel soft, and I'm sitting up tall. I feel really bright and grounded. And okay, anchor in that feeling. And then use this experience, the body keeps the score. So use this encoding feeling and apply it to a situation where you don't feel so relaxed and peaceful. So again, you can transfer one experience to the other to support you. And that's a very simple version of embodiment. There's engagement that I have my clients do with me or with someone else. Like, how do you show up with someone else? Like if it's that first date, right? How do you want to show up? Like, how do you show up? And then how do you want to show up? Whatever other situation. So you have like a before and an after, and then you can calibrate, say someone, say you want to charge so much for your Kundalini classes or a speaking opportunity, a coaching session or something, a graphic design thing. Like, oh, how much should I charge? You can check in with your body, what it's in agreement to, like in that unconscious part. And that because there's the conscious part, it's like, well, maybe $20 is okay. And that's the conscious part. Like that's safe. It's comfortable. Okay. I think people will pay $20, but you're like, gosh, that's really not very much. Like, okay, well, what about $30? It's a stretch. Okay, I could probably ask for 30, but what if you would ask for 50? And they're like, I could never ask for 50. Like, because going from 20 to 50 is too much of a jump. You get it. Sometimes we need to do it incrementally. And then there's there's a process I take people through that can go from like 20 to 50 pretty quick. Because again, it's what we feel we can charge, what we're worth, what we feel other people would pay us. And that can go in lots of directions, depending on what someone is noticing about themselves or limiting themselves to. Like we have a limit that these ancestral wounds and healing, they put a limit on what we feel we can have or be or do. That be, do, have saying, it puts a limit on our life, what we want, what we are creating, what's possible. And so when we do these practices, whether it's the Kundalini, the embodiment, the NLP or hypnosis, we can start calibrating and shifting the neurology, healing those wounds, recoding. It's called rewiring, recoding, a new thought process, a new feeling in the body, so we can start manifesting what it is we really want. And we're also in alignment. So like, affirmations don't always work. It's like, I say these affirmations, I've been saying them for like 60 days and nothing's changed. I don't get it, right? I've been doing what they told me to do. And so unless that part of you believes that it's true and you can happen, it's like, yeah, I want $1 million. It's like, if there's a part of you that wants that, but doesn't believe it will ever happen. And, again, that's a stretch. So you might say, well, I just this year, I just want to earn 20,000. Okay. That's believable. My body is in agreement to that. But what if I want to earn 100,000 this year? Again, it's like, if there's a part of us that believes that it is possible, that we're worthy of it, then the affirmation can work. We can manifest what we want. But if their part is like, oh my God, like no one in my family has ever earned 100,000. At the tops, they've earned 50,000. So we limit ourselves. So that's where all of this work, again, ancestral. It's like, well, my parents at the most, it was a really, really, you were doing well if you earned 50,000 a year, right? Like you were on top of your game. So to go beyond that is to bump up against that limit that has been encoded by generations and generations ago. So
Yeah,
heal it, change the belief.
totally. It's just amazing how it impacts these patterns and these generational ancestral things that impact every aspect of our life, every aspect of our life. And and it's just so important for us to really, like you said, investigate why am I the way I am, or if we have challenges, not why, but what am I feeling, right? And if we have challenges in life, to not see them as, hey, I'm doomed or this is my destiny, to be willing to give yourself the permission to actually heal. Because I think a lot of people are just like we said in the beginning, it's just like, this is how I am, this is how I'm gonna be. I'm just stuck, and basically my life is never going to change. Which I would love to ask you, because we are running out of time. The question that I always ask at the end is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone that's beginning on their healing journey. So think of someone, a brand new client that has decided they want to work with you, but they've never done meditation, they've never done NLP, they've never done hypnotherapy, they've never done any holistic healing. What would you say to them? Where is a good place for them to start today?
I would say if it was someone in person, I would definitely take a holistic approach. I do body work and energy work, as well as the coaching and the NLP and hypnosis. So I would start like I would meet them where they're at first of all. Like it's like, okay, well they're open to this. Okay, like rather than let's do hypnosis, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have all of these conceptions or this perception about hypnosis. Like I wouldn't start there with them. So it's like get them into their body and help them feel into that. The body keeps the score. Okay, so what are you noticing? What's the problem? First of all, is what they think is a problem might not be the problem. So we're going to start there. And then, work with the body, work with that energy. Like what's like, it's like when you walk in a room and when someone is mad or happy, and you don't even need to look at them. You can just like sense, like it's like our radar already picks it up. So it's like, how are you showing up in the world? Because that's the signal that you're sending out. That signal that you're sending out is what you're going to manifest. So like what programming is there to become aware of, and what are they doing in their lives with their choices that um that's manifesting from that thought, that belief. And then start working on recoding. So using all the modalities one at a time, sometimes in combination with each other, and just like whittling away. Just kind of like whittle away a little bit here and there. And when I say a little bit, that's what's so great about the work that I love doing, about the work I do, like whether it's embodiment, the hypnosis, or NLP. Some people are like, oh, I've been seeing a therapist for 2 years and I'm still struggling with this. It's like, just like, let's work together for, I don't know, the next 4 weeks. What do you mean 4 weeks? Like, this has taken me 2 years and it still isn't resolved. And I'm like, yeah, let's like look at 4 weeks and see where you're at then. Because it's not just talking about it. Because when we talk about it, we're just anchoring it in stronger and stronger and stronger. So let's talk about something new, a new way of talking about it, a new perspective. Let's start rewiring whatever's there, recoding it, and then from there, creating in the body the possibility, actually feeling that something is possible. Because, like you said, like we come at it as this is just the way I am. It's like, okay, well, we're obviously operating from that place. Let's look at and visualize a new way of being. So, so just, finding out where someone is. And yeah, it's like everyone does that. It's like, okay, yeah, of course. Like, we need to like, where's that starting point? And then what part of them is ready for a big leap? Like going from that 20,000 a year to 50,000 a year, like, no, like, it's like, yes, it is possible. And you don't need to build your business to 50,000 in order to feel that you can have 50,000. It's like you take the future and we kind of like take the future out there and we plunk it here right now. And it's like, okay, that's that timeline thing. Because our minds don't know reality from imagination. Because we're already imagining all kinds of scenarios that haven't happened, right? It's like that anxiety is like, well, this can happen, that can happen. We get so anxious and then we get in that spiral. And it hasn't even happened. We're just imagining it could happen. It's probably going to, like, it's just my luck. It's probably going to happen. It's like, well, we've already imagined that. Well, let's imagine a different scenario.
Beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce. You simplified something that can be very, very complicated for a lot of people. I really,
And we
really,
do tend to complicate things. That's our
right?
nature.
It's so funny because we tell clients that this is what we're doing, and they're like, that sounds too simple. Like, that's what you want me to do? You want me to breathe? You want me to, change the way my thoughts are thinking with the help of hypnotherapy? Really? That's what you want me to do? But it really is this simple. And we can all learn to understand our nervous system. I really do believe that that is the future of medicine. We can all learn to understand ourselves as beings, as human beings, so we can ultimately learn to accept ourselves. Joyce, it has been such an honor speaking with you. You've been a wealth of knowledge, of wisdom. Everything you spoke about resonates and absolutely hits on every point of what our mission here is in the podcast. So I highly appreciate that. Where can our audience find you? If they wanted to book a session with you, are you taking clients, or do you have a group coaching program or a website where they can find you?
People can find me and reach me at my website, soul, SOUL, then a dash, genius.com. And it's just more like a landing page than a website because I want to talk to people. I want to know where you're at. You can like browse through pages and pages of a website and this or that. It's like I want to connect with you. I want to know where you're at, what you want in life, and what's stopping you. Or let's look at what's stopping you. But more like, what do you want? Because we tend to know very clearly what we don't want. We're very clear. We're very certain. I don't want this. And so, well, what do you want instead? Well, I haven't given that much thought. I've been too focused on what I don't want. And so that's the beginning of the journey that I start with people. And so, yeah, just we get on a call, book a call with me. Let's get to know each other, what's going on for you and what you're looking for. And just know that I hold a very sacred space with people that I work with. And so when someone's ready, and that's what the call is for, is like, are you really ready to like dive into this stuff? Like, are you wanting to do the work? Are you ready to welcome in that version of yourself that has been hiding or sleeping? So go to the website. Let's get a call with me. You can also find me on Facebook, Joyce.Ayers, I think it is, but just look for me with the white hair. And it's Ayers is Ayers. So you can definitely find me there and message me there. I have all sorts of things post there as well. So I look forward to connecting with anyone who is ready to be on this journey. And they've already found you there, so I imagine they're already on the journey. And that's why they're following your podcast and maybe students of yours already in person or the work that you're doing. So we're just all here to lift each other up, connect with ourselves, and build that connection with each other, like you're saying.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that and for building community with us here on the podcast. I'll make sure that I also post all of your contact information here in the podcast description so that all of us can know where to find you. And again, thank you so much for all the wisdom you shared today. It's been such an honor. For our audience, thank you for joining us on Sovereign Women Podcast. We hope that
Thank you.
episode has inspired you to really start to take action in your own personal healing journey. Of course, if you found value in our conversation, please subscribe, hit that like button, share this podcast, help spread the message of our movement of sovereignty and generational healing. Remember that you are the cycle breaker for healing past and future generations. Join us next time to reclaim your sovereignty. Thanks, Joyce. I'll see you.
Thank you. Bye.